As I look at our move abroad budget, there are a few items in that budget that are making me nervous. When you're moving with a family, there are obviously certain expenses that you don't have to take into consideration when you are moving abroad by yourself. In no particular order, let's start with the first one. Budget item that can blindside you really fast when you are moving abroad with a family is the one that is hurting me the most right now, and it's education. The fact that our kids are in a public school right now, we pay zero. We only pay for their food at the cafeteria. But now that we are moving abroad to a country that is not English speaking, they're going to go to a private school because it needs to be at least bilingual. One of my early worries about moving to a French speaking country was if we were going to be able to find options, English speaking international schools that would be a good fit for my kids. And I'm glad we were able to find a few options. Now, here's the thing. The options vary in budget. So you have the international school that is like American school, and where you will pay about $20,000 per kid per year. So not in my budget yet. But you have other options where the budget could range between $1,000 a month to $500 a month to $200 a month to $100 a month per kid. Okay, so you have a little bit of everything. But even though you have options, that doesn't mean that you have 30,000 options. You have a few limited options, but good options. So it's going to be a big jump from zero in our current budget for education to at least $1,000 a month because we have 4 children. And on top of that, there are other items that we don't pay for here, such as uniform or even transportation fees that we don't pay for here because that's something that we pay in our taxes as the residents of our community, but you will have to pay when you send your kids to an international school. So that's the first item that can blindside you if you don't do proper research about the different options that you have when it comes to your kids' education as you're moving abroad. Item number 2 is a little tricky because it really depends on your destination, and that's rent. There's an assumption that when you're moving outside of the US, rent is a lot more affordable, which is generally the case. Now, the thing is that in some countries, you're gonna have to pay rent upfront. One example is Ghana. We've all heard that some landlords will require you to pay a whole year upfront or even 2 years of rent upfront. So that's a big lump of cash that you need to put down as you arrive to be able to secure that lodging. When it comes to Côte d'Ivoire, for example, you only put 5 months upfront. So that's a lump sum of money that you need to be ready to pay as you arrive. In other countries, they might vary. So it really depends on where you're going. Even if rent is affordable, let's say you have a house that fits your family and the rent is only $1,000 a month. So that's pretty affordable. But if you have to pay 12 months up front, well, then that's a big lump sum of money that you have to put down right away. So you have to be ready for this kind of expense. Now, the great thing about it is that once you pay that up front, you don't have to think about it for the whole year, but still you need to have that in your budget from the get-go. So definitely prepare your budget for that, even if you know that your rent abroad is going to be a lot lower than your rent here in the US. And last but certainly not least, another item line that can bust your budget if you don't pay attention is food, and specifically imported food. And that's for those of us who might make the mistake of wanting to take our lifestyle that we have here and copy paste it abroad. So eating the same food that we eat here, it's going to be imported over there. Okay, so if you're thinking about the Kinder Buenos, if you're thinking about the Oreos, if you're thinking about the Kellogg's cereal and all of the American goods that are now going to be imported in your new destination, there is going to be a higher price point. That's just obvious. Just like foreign goods here in the US, now with the new tariffs, have a really high price point, or a higher price point than if you were to purchase them in their country of origin. It's just how it is. It's just economics, right? So the solution here is to look for local substitute. If you're looking at Bonne Maman confiture, for example, the French confiture, well, even here in the US, it's not super cheap, right? So you're going to look at an American substitute. Same thing abroad. look for the local substitute to that brand that you might be used to, like Nutella, for example. I'm sure there's a local substitute for that. If you're looking at jams, if you're looking at chocolate, if you're looking at cookies, if you're looking at cheese, if you eat cheese, right? So these are just small things that can add up really, really, really fast. Or even fruit, things that don't grow in that area that will be imported, then those things will be a lot more expensive. So for example, if they don't grow cherries in that area and you see them in the market, well, they're going to be a lot more expensive because they're not from that area, they are imported. So let's not be surprised that certain things cost a lot more. Well, it's normal, okay? So if you want to be able to reduce your cost of living and manage your budget pretty well, you have to be aware of these costs. You have to be aware of these expenses that are not important right now here, but once you move abroad, these can totally bust your budget if you are not paying attention, if you're not being intentional about the choices that you're making in the way you live your life abroad. So yes, it's fun to live it up for a little bit, mostly at the beginning because you want to ease the transition and all of that. But at some point, you're going to have to shift a few things, really change your lifestyle. You're not moving to, again, copy paste the lifestyle that you have here, but to adapt to a new lifestyle, just like most people live in that destination. Okay, so if you haven't set up your budget yet, or if you're not really sure about what to include in your budget, I have a free budget tracker resource that I'm going to link in the description of this video. You can download it for free. It's a Google Sheet. That way you can look at the items that I have in my budget. Maybe there are things that you didn't really think about, like transportation or even insurance or even getting your hair done, things that maybe we overlook. Then you'll be able to find those inside of that budget. So just go in the description of this video and you will find that free resource. Obviously, at the end of the day, whether you're moving abroad or not, but specifically when you're moving abroad, you need to be able to have an emergency fund. So being able to have savings, being able to have that cushion. Every time you look at items in your budget, it's always best to increase the price point a little bit, just to make sure that you are prepared for the unexpected. And also because of the US fluctuation, if you are getting money in USD, because your money is not going to be able to stretch as much as you had planned if the US dollar is continuing to drop. So these are some of the big expenses that people might be blindsided when they're moving abroad, specifically with a family, education, rent, and food. So what are your thoughts about these big items? Are there other items that might make a big difference in your budget because they're a lot more expensive abroad? Just let me know in the comments. And after that, make sure you watch the next video right here where I tell you more about the cost of living in Côte d'Ivoire. Till next time, bye.